Hi everyone, this is Colleen Waldock, Crystal Sally, and Amanda Green from Platinum Title. We are very excited to have Amanda here today because it's hard to explain what title is to people and why they need it. So before we even get started, why don't you give us a little background on yourself,
Yeah. So I've been licensed as a title agent now for 4 years, and I worked under someone that had like 35 years experience, like one-on-one with them. So just to gain all the knowledge once she retired. So I've now manager of Platinum Title as of August, and super excited about this new thing. But I also have real estate license, so I have like all the real estate background. I have a bookkeeping degree, so I have like numbers. So it just felt like this was a right fit for me because I'm an I daughter T crosser, and I like to just make all the puzzle pieces fit together. That's like what I enjoy doing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, do you have any kids?
Yeah. I got 2 girls, 19 and 17.
Nice.
So.
So, okay, why do we need title insurance?
Sure. Title insurance is going to protect your financial investment. So when you're purchasing a home, that's one of the most expensive things you're ever going to buy. So for a title insurance is a one-time premium that you purchase at closing, and it protects your investment for as long as you own the property for anything that happened in the past. So it's unlike homeowners insurance where you're protecting a property for anything that's going to happen in the future. Most insurances are protecting you for title insurance protects you for anything that somebody might have done in the past.
So, like if there was a lien on the property and
that didn't get disclosed properly, didn't get paid off, errors and omissions on the deeds. I see lots of typos on deeds where you're transferring property, but that's not the right legal description, or it's not endorsed correctly, or and then the examiners, we're all human, right? So they are literally combing through files from 30 years, going back for marketable records. They miss things like that happen. So undisclosed errors, I find around Florida could be an issue because you got all this vacant land that was owned by one person, and now they're developing it and putting all these houses on it, and like any just undisclosed error can come back and say I have a claim.
Oh.
So that's where your title insurance, your one-time premium, protects your investment. Now, should I go on?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's 2 types. So there's a lender's policy. Anytime you get a loan, the lender's going to require you they want to protect their investment every single time. And so that's just those are Florida promulgated amounts, meaning that you go to any title insurance company, we're going to charge, title insurance is the same. It's going to be, it's based on your purchase price and your loan amount. It's a Florida promulgated, we cannot vary from that. So title insurance is very competitive, highly competitive, because we gotta, so that's why. So 2 types of policies, and then the lender's one's required. Owner's policy protects your investment. And so we do like a simultaneous issue, and so then you pay for the full premium on the lender, and then for a little bit more you get your own, which protects your investment.
Okay.
So then that way.
So, very cool.
Yeah.
That handles...
I kind of went through it so quickly.
Quite a bit on our list here.
But I do have questions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so now when I go and I get my closing docs and I see Alta this, Alta that, and there's a bunch of... So what are the line charges for? I mean, you've got the Alta, which protects what or does what?
So the endorsements?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so you have endorsements, so they have a 4.1 means it's in a condo. That's going to tell that it protects the lender if anything should happen with the condo, so they add this endorsement on there. A 5.1 is for an HOA. It means it's in a PUD, and again, they're just endorsements that they add onto their lender's policy to protect if anything should happen with the HOAs. And then there's always with the loan, it's called an 8.1. It has to do with encroachments and all that, and a Florida Form 9. So you're going to see those 2, 8.1, Florida Form 9, on any loan.
Okay.
And then if it's in a condo or an HOA, then you get those. Now, if they're doing an adjustable loan, now we have a 6.1.
Okay.
Yeah. If it's on, what do they call it, navigational servitude, like if it's on coastal land, there's an endorsement for that if you're getting a loan. So it keeps going. It's like more added protection,
Gotcha.
like specifically
Okay.
for.
So what's the difference between title, your services, and a lawyer?
Correct. So, not much. Not much. I would say the price.
Okay.
So my closing cost is $395. I will tell you, a lawyer's not going to do it for $395. They'll probably be like $695. Most lawyers, we use Old Republic, which is one of the largest underwriters, and so do a lot of the lawyers. So when they're placing their title search, I might as well be placing the titles. They're sending back the same requirements. Now, the only time I would suggest using a lawyer over a title company, any kind of Florida resale home, anything that's been resold over and over, you don't need a lawyer. In my opinion. But if it's, we had a vacant lot on Casey Key, and it was supposed to have deeded beach access across the street. We made them get a real estate attorney, so that way all, that they were making sure, and it ended up not being attached.
Oh, really?
So after extension after extension after extension, but that was good for the real estate attorney to, so there's certain circumstances like higher end, like where there might be more issues is where I would say, but a regular resale in a neighborhood, I am held to high standards as a lawyer. I have to follow, this is what the underwriter's telling me, requirement. I'm clearing them, same as a lawyer.
Okay.
They get, where if something hinky should happen, they can write up more stuff. That would be the only thing. Like they could have they're lawyers, right?
Right.
I can't act as a lawyer, but I can go to my underwriter and say, this is what's happening.
And, yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
so I have lawyers behind me,
Okay.
like their legal team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Now, as far as when we come to the closing table,
Mm-hmm.
there's a bunch of stuff that people get. It's like, what, 3 days that they need their closing docs in advance?
So that's when you're getting a loan.
Okay.
Yeah. So the lender is required to give 3-day preview of the CD. We cannot close before that CD goes out to them. CFPB, like, cover in there, where that's like the buyer's 3-day rescission.
Okay.
Because we're fund at the table.
Right.
That's where the difference is. I think in California it's not like that, and then they give them a rescission 3 days after that.
Okay, so they fund after closing.
Right.
Versus you fund right
We're at
after
the table closing, so that way you have to do the 3 days before.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I give you a house or documents,
Contract?
Transaction that has an HOA.
Mm-hmm.
What all is involved with that?
All of the fun stuff,
Yeah.
So an HOA where there's board approval required, there's obviously an application fees that your buyer should, and the contract actually says within 3 days, within 5 days, that they need to be applying for that. And then my portion is I request an estoppel certificate through the management company. There's always third parties now. I don't go right to the board directors. And then they are allowed to charge $299 per Florida statutes. They're allowed to take 10 business days, which in our world is 14 calendar days, not including holidays. So,
Right.
And then those estoppel certificates tell me whether the seller owes money, what the dues are, how far they paid, any capital contributions, transfer fees. And
What about special assessments? Is that included in that? Okay.
Anything to do with the money for the HOA needs to come directly from them to me, and then I put it on the settlement statement. And really, I can't even diverge from that. Like, people be like, well, I paid the bill yesterday. I'm like, you're gonna...
Yeah, you have to get me something else. to
Yeah,
write
like
in.
I can stop the closing and try to figure this out right now, or... So that's where it's always a timing thing.
Yeah.
It's such
Yeah.
because if you give me a contract on November 15th and you wanted to close, so then I have to time it where they make if it's a monthly, where they make their payments, but I get my 14 days though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's like a catch-22 sometimes when.
So you really need at least, at very minimum, 21 days.
I would say 21. If it's in the HOA.
Okay.
Or board approval. Condo, 100. I would give 21 days for condos because the board they're all volunteers. That's not their real job to make sure that they're going through the applications and the interviews and doing that. They don't, in my opinion, they don't really, that's not, time is not the essence for them. So that's why I always say with condo, sometimes the HOA is not board approval.
Okay.
For
Yeah.
those, I
Yeah.
still have the 10 days, but yeah.
Do you have, what is the most problematic area that you have to deal with?
You know what I think right now? What I'm dealing with the most addendums is the names the agents are putting on the contract.
Oh.
I'm really running into this where the buyer says, I'm Andy Smith, but you're not, you're Andrew F. Smith. And now you want your deed to say Andrew F. Smith, but who's Andy? Like, it has to all match.
Right.
All the way down. And then the buyers don't understand the importance of it. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, now my job, I'm like, I am educating my realtors.
So what do you want us to do as realtors? Do we need to get it from their ID card? Is that
The ID card,
proper?
I would say that would be their legal
And
name.
that's kind of what we've been doing is what is the name on your driver's license?
Correct. Yes, because and then talking to them. This is what you're going to want on your deed. How this whatever we put on the contract is
It's going to be what's on the deed.
not that I don't do an addendum on the closing day.
Yeah.
Now the buyer's name is.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean that's
And then-
what I've been doing for.
And then
Yeah.
how about trusts? We've got
We've
one
got
right
one,
now.
yeah.
That has
So
to
they're
be
the buyers, right?
They're the buyers.
Right, and I think I
yeah.
said it was Joe Smith and Margaret Smith as co-trustees of the Smith Family Trust data.
Dated. So what is it dated?
It's on their trust,
It's on their trust, okay.
whenever they
Got
prepared
it.
the trust.
Right.
Yeah, because that's what they want on the deed.
And that's like
And they
So
have
long.
to sign, that's the name.
No, they can sign. No, they can just sign Joe Smith
Oh.
because they're trustees. They're not
Okay.
the actual trust, so it's confusing. But
that's why I was like, what do
No,
they sign?
no, Joe Smith. Just like the closing procedure.
I think that's the biggest thing.
I
like,
know
for buyers or even sellers, like what do they need to know? I mean, we try to educate them as much as possible on what the next steps are.
Yeah.
But I think one of the most important things is the escrow deposit. I mean, if we have a buyer, that needs to happen ASAP.
Yeah.
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 And then that information comes from you as far
Yeah.
as where to send the money to, and then
As soon as I try to, I know I select on the one, but when I get the contract, that's immediately, should I reach out now to the buyer or
Yes.
give me the buyer's information? I'll get the escrow deposit. I think the one I keep running into right now, sellers think they can e-sign everything.
Yes, and they can't.
And they
What-
cannot.
What do they have to sign and why?
Correct. So a deed is a formal document. It's going to be an official record that we record with the county, right? So it has to be notarized. This is a conveyance of a property. So a lot of legalities go into this. There's homestead issues that go into this. So yes, it has to be wet signed is what they call it. Has to be witnessed by 2 different witnesses and notarized. Okay? Not e-signed.
So if
No
you,
electronic.
if you had a mail away where somebody's in a different state,
Mhm.
then you have a notary go to them and they do all that.
So title companies typically don't schedule a mobile notary. For a loan, maybe. For a seller, I typically am like, hey, I'm going to send this package up to you, arrange for a notary. It's going to be through UPS. UPS are notaries. So when you're getting the package, go right to the UPS store, have them do everything, and then just put it in the thing and send it.
send it back.
That's kind of how I say it.
Okay.
But if you're comfortable with the mobile notary, they're going to charge you $150 to come out to your house. So it just depends on their comfort level, is
Now-
what I always read.
Is that how does that work for out of country? Is it the same? Does it matter? Like, say they're in Canada and they need to do
Canadians I can overnight to.
okay, and then they can do the mobile maybe, or they have
They have notaries too. It's more like province. It's a little bit different, but we can definitely accept it. They have notaries.
Okay.
Okay. Canadians are fine except for the seller part of it with the FERPTA.
Then I was just getting ready to ask you because we've got one of those now too.
So,
We're getting them all.
yeah, we're making it easy for you.
yeah, the seller, so the deed there's always an owner's affidavit, which you're swearing that there's no other court proceedings. It's like another affidavit that always need to be notarized. So right now there's remote online notarization, which is a special notary, which I am, but it's very techy. Extremely, so the other person on the other side has to be able to log in, the microphone has to work, the camera has to work, they have
Yep.
to be able to get a code, upload a picture, answer knowledge-based answers. What car did you drive in 1992? What street did you live on when you were 5?
They want to make sure that you are who you say you are.
Right. So that the consumer has to be able to do it. So I am a remote, but like when I do it, it takes forever. It's like, so that's 2 avenues for the seller. That's the only way they can sign electronically. But they
Okay,
have to be techie.
okay.
So if you see someone, I don't mind, but if they're like, no, can't turn on a computer, no.
They don't. if
You get an overnight UPS.
Yeah. If they have a landline.
Nah, the one, and then I can read them sometimes. Like she was super quick, and she was giving me all the information. She's like, I'm not gonna be there. I'm like, you can do it, Ron. So I like, yeah, I feel them out.
Yeah, right.
All right, FIRPTA, Foreign Investment Real Estate Tax Act. Where's the P? Property Tax Act, probably. FIRPTA.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you have a Canadians is more, but if they're foreign,
European,
own-
anywhere.
foreign,
Yeah.
if they own property, subject to 15% withholding.
At
15
closing.
Automatic line item to the IRS. I write a check to the IRS. I take it to the IRS with a return receipt request with all the forms that go 8288s is what they're called, and I take all that. So if you read it, it says the buyer is responsible.
Yes, I was
Really?
gonna ask you
Okay.
that.
If you read that,
Yeah.
is the buyer going to know what to do? Does the buyer even know what FIRPTA is? So
No.
this is where we facilitate. This is where the title company facilitates, because the buyer is ultimately responsible. If I don't withhold it and it doesn't go, they are responsible because they're the one with the U.S. tax 1090. They're the one with the U.S. tax ID.
Okay.
So with a FIRPTA, what we would suggest is that your seller gets a hold of a FIRPTA attorney immediately, because they can actually ask for a waiver letter. There's some kind of like waiver.
Okay. We're gonna have our customer give you a call.
I'm gonna give you a FIRPTA lady. I'll give you Renee. Like there's,
Thank you.
I don't do FIRPTA, but we have a person who does. And then that way, sometimes they can get it waived, or at least it starts the process, because if they don't start the process before, it could take a long time to get that money back. Because the 15%, it's probably not what they owe. It's just what this IRS wants.
Right, because you've got your cost basis. You buy the house 20 years ago, but you've renovated and put $150,000 or
Yeah.
$200,000 into it. You're not. I mean, that's part of
The
what
capital
you're
gains.
Yeah, but it's also what you're not taxed on, because that's what you've invested into. So it's the cost is.
So any
Going
yeah.
up.
So we
So
always
that's like the FIRPTA on the seller side,
Mhm.
right? And then so you're per the contract, the buyer's responsible, but it's
Correct.
coming out of the seller's.
correct.
Now, you're saying the buyer has the U.S. tax ID. What if the buyer's
4 and 2.
foreign too?
Then we run into problems.
Okay.
Because then I don't think
That's what I
you have
was
a foreign
wondering.
buyer too. Don't have a foreign buyer.
What
on
if
it.
you have?
No foreign buyers. Really? Already?
I might have somebody who is a foreign buyer that might be interested.
Then we might really need to get Renee Glennening into it and
Alrighty.
really see
Well,
what's going to happen.
These are all valid, interesting questions.
Yes,
This is
Because
they
on my
are.
I didn't realize
8288, I have to put the
that.
buyer's
The buyer.
tax ID.
Wow.
Yes, this is on the contracts now, that at closing, your buyer's going to sign this foreign. I am not a foreign principal. I'm not from these areas. I have to stop the closing if they are.
Wow.
So it's on the page 13 or 14, depending on which contract you're using. It says at closing, you're going to, so for my cash deals now, I send that right to the buyer. Like anybody, I'm like, here's what you're going to have to sign at closing. Go ahead and get this notarized and send it back to me right
Is
now.
that for any property or isn't it?
Not right now, it is.
It's not just for like places that are close to
It's on every transaction right now.
In the state of Florida.
in the state.
Because of
Florida.
our governor. And that was of July 1st.
Okay.
I know it's being contested, but right now it's required in my closings.
Do you suggest that we print out that form or that information? There's 3
The affidavit,
pages,
Yep.
and give that to every buyer and seller. We
Well, not the sellers,
just the buyers.
Just the buyer.
Buyers.
or you can point it on the contract.
Okay.
It's stated on there as
Yep.
well. Like, or if hey, here's the addendum to, or
So they've
yeah.
got a couple paragraphs versus
and
3
if-
pages.
Yeah.
If they're a citizen, it doesn't matter. Like say they got
They
the
still have-
citizenship.
Right. And that's what I ran with her. So they weren't there. She's not a foreign principal anymore. She doesn't
Yeah,
live
she-
there. Yeah, she doesn't have a visa. She didn't have any of that. So she was like,
Wow.
she's a resident.
It's so complicated.
It is.
now.
It's kind of.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of business with foreigners. I mean,
It's
Yeah.
Florida.
it's Florida.
I mean, we get people from all over the world coming
Yeah.
here constantly.
So that's why the realtors need to be very educated now where who they can actually sell to.
Which sucks because
It sucks. It's discrimination
it
of
is.
sorts.
It is.
And it's being contested because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm just saying that's my role. They
Yeah.
tell me to do it. I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. I'm
Yeah.
just saying that
That's a hard one.
that's like the newest.
Yep.
Because like on a cash deal, I can for a buyer, they can electronically sign everything, except for this affidavit.
Mm. I think another question for buyers or even sellers, like what do they need to bring to closing?
Yes.
Because, you know, we don't want to forget something that's important and have to run home and grab it. So what
Always
is
your
important?
ID. You shouldn't be driving without your ID anyway. Always have your ID.
And that's one of those things we should have a piece of
Paper
paper
that has, yes.
that on closing day bring this.
It's your ID is pretty much for me, and then if it's a seller, I say if you're accepting your proceeds via wire, please bring your wiring instructions.
Mhm.
Those are about the only two. And there's always going to be like, hey, bring me the original power of attorney. Hey, bring me, there might be like a miscellaneous one-offs is what I like to call. Buyers, again, just a photo ID, pretty
Just-
much.
Okay, just one, right? Like they don't need.
Unless sometimes on loans they'll say two, and then again that's a one-off where I'll be like they're requiring two, and you need to bring
Yeah.
your tax bill in or something like that. And so,
Okay.
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 But really, not much. And then in my emails, I just always say all that for you guys because you guys have enough to do. Like for me, I'll make sure that.
That all that stuff is in
And then,
there.
like I said, I'm an I dot or T cross. I'm like, got my stuff.
Yes.
Got my stuff.
Which is good because that's what.
Being proactive.
Yes.
And then, just platinum title, and I feel like I give 110% customer service, and my closing fee is $395.
You can't beat that.
It's really, we have not increased our price at all, because it's super competitive.
Yeah.
I just want to come in, just give good customer service.
Well, the biggest thing too is Platinum Title is with Remax, or at least our Remax, so
Affiliated.
it's
Yes.
affiliated with it, so we can close in multiple offices. So
Oh,
here
yes.
at Welland Park, downtown Venice, down in Osprey, anywhere that we
Lakewood
can-
Ranch,
Lakewood
Siesta
Ranch,
Key.
yeah, downtown Sarasota. We have 6
Yeah.
offices,
Yeah.
and I'm willing to travel and make it as convenient for everybody.
Me too. So thank you, Amanda, for coming,
Thank you.
and Crystal and I really do appreciate you taking the time out to come and talk to us.
My pleasure.
Because title is confusing and
But it's important.
it's very important.
Yes.
Yes.
So
Yeah, so if you have any questions, I'd be happy to talk
Yeah.
to anybody.
Amanda Green, Platinum Title.
Thank you.
Thank you.